why have this discussion? Whenever we look at the Department of Corrections in 2008, they received that year about 8,763. Fast forward 10 years, they received last year 10,777. The population has grown over 8% during that same time period, while their appropriations has only grown about 5.8%. And so there's some challenges that need to be in there. And so whenever we begin to talk about money, and money seems to dominate many of our conversations and where we need to be, I just simply want to outline at the very beginning, if we're doing criminal justice reform, in my opinion, simply because we are out of room in our county jails, we are out of room in our correctional facilities, and we're out of room in our prisons, and we're saying simply because we are underfunded, understaffed, and undercompensated, a number of things I'm going to talk about today, and overcrowded, and the average cost being over $21,000 a year, then we need to be talking about reform because we can no longer afford to spend that kind of money. All those things may have merit. That cannot and must not be the reason for criminal justice reform. I know if you're in local businesses and you set out in a business that your whole goal is simply to make money, that's all you're trying to do, you'll make a little bit of money, but in the long range, you will fail. If your goal is out to make customers and be customer friendly and service, in the long run, you will succeed and you will make money. So I'm asking the question today, what is our expectation? Criminal justice reform, what is our expectation? Is our expectation that we no longer will be number one in Oklahoma and therefore number one in the world in incarceration? Is that our goal? Well, I understand for us to be average, we'd have to release about half that we have locked up. And if that's our only goal as we become average with the state of Oklahoma, then let's just simply get with the DAs and let's get with our judges and say we're going to dump about 12 or 13,000 people on the streets, just get ready. That cannot and must not be our goal. There's criminal reform and there is justice reform. And so whenever I begin to look at criminal reform, and that's where we actually began, those are quality of life issues for folks that are outside of the system. In other words, we want to help people become better people. We want to help them become non-offenders. We want to help them become better families. We want them to be better citizens. We want them to be productive in our society, and quite frankly, we want them to be taxpayers instead of tax takers. We want to stop a generational cycle that is going on. And so there's some areas that I think we must continue to look at and do a better job. One of those is into mental health. Mental health. Over 50% of those that are incarcerated have some degree of mental illness. If we want to address that, and we want to address that before they get there, or before they get into Judge Parrish's courtroom, or before they sit down across from DA Max Cook, that comes back to criminal justice reform. And here it's criminal reform. Is the idea of breaking that generational cycle and being able to get in and do some things. I think politicians can be involved in this type of thing. We see them hauling hay out to western Oklahoma after a fire, and it gets on the news. All of us need to hook up our trailers, get our supplies, our donations, and say, we're going to make this happen ourselves, and we're going to be there. In our audience today, Christy Luther. What she has done at McLeod is outstanding because she is a lady who says, I'm tired of the status quo. She said, I'm tired of seeing these ladies get out of prison without a trade. And she worked on getting some of the laws changed. She worked on getting it privately supplied with everything they need to be a cosmetologist. And I've been out there, and I've been in her facility, and I've been at her graduation, and I've seen these people leave there, and they've got a job they can make $30,000 a year. She said, I'm tired of talking about I'm going to do something. When will we do the same thing? When will we say, I'm going to get physically involved in this, quit attending seminars, I'm going to make a difference where I am? Education's got to be there. Folks, we got law enforcement. I'm very thankful for the law enforcement. I'm thankful you're here today. I know they're frustrated. They get frustrated because they get the bad actors off of the streets. They put them through the system. I was told this last week, somehow we get a 5-year sentence, and then you guys at 23rd and Lincoln let them out in 6 months. And whether that's real or not, that is the perceived that's out that way. You know, we need to lock people up that we're scared of and not those we're mad at. And Max is right. He said we don't lock people up we're mad at. We lock folks up who have broken the law. and they're following the law. When we say that, we try to make an emotional connection out of it, and that's fine to be able to do that. But if we want reform, and we have the DAs at the table, and we have the judges at the table, and we have those individuals that are going to be there, we're not interested in sound bites. We're interested in something that's really going to work. And if you take the education piece, and you take the mental health piece, and I've been told, and I've watched all of this, folks, to get into prison today, you have to work at it. We're not just throwing you in on the very first offense, unless it's capital offense, murder, violence, something like that. But folks, I'll tell you what, we must have that conversation. But in the process of that conversation, we must respect every player that's at the table. They're doing exactly what the folks at 23rd and Lincoln have asked them to do. And if we need to change those laws, we can change those laws. And then ask them to make sure that they carry forward on those laws. We are definitely at a crossroads in time. We've got those that says, let's just let them out. We've got those that say, let's don't. We got individuals that says we've got laws that we need to keep, and we've got laws that we probably need to take another look at. All these are right. What I am convinced of, that we have the leaders that are in place today through the Department of Corrections. We have the leaders that are in place today through the District Attorney's Council and through law enforcement. We have leaders that have shown leadership today by being here from the judiciary. And we have legislators that are in the audience today who I believe has been born for such a time as this. It is not a time for platitudes. It is not a time for sound bites on television. It is a time for good men and good women to stand up, take the lead, take the heat, and let's get something done about criminal justice reform. Thank you very much.